Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Creative Goo. I hope you guys are ready for a holiday episode about creativity and gaming and holidays all wrapped into one. I'm Harry, and I'm your host for Creative Goo, and I'm going to be spending the next hour or so, or less than an hour, talking about creativity. And I want to say thank you to Gooey Cube, who sponsors this stream. And with that said, let me jump to another screen here and show you their website. So let me make sure we're getting to the holiday sales. So one of the things I wanted to share is the Gooey Cube shop is having a holiday sale with lots of things going on. It's a great place to go. It's shop.gooeycube.com. And I just wanted to say thank you and do a shout out. And if you need some things for the holidays or need anything, make sure you jump here and take a look and see what they have to offer. So I am also found on Facebook at Harry's 3D Sculpting, and you can find my product. I do STL files that you can download and print on your 3D printer using whatever software you use, but I'm available on my mini factory. Harry Coit's my username, and the links are here on the screen if you're interested in checking out any of my stuff. So happy holidays to everybody. For those of you that celebrate Christmas, that's coming up. There's all kinds of other holidays this season. I'm definitely a welcome all kind of person. So hopefully whatever holiday you celebrate, you're having a great time this season. I'm certainly much more chipper than I have been most of the year. For those of you that know me, you probably know why. And hey, Geeky, how's it going? Hope you're doing great. Nice to see you. If you have any suggestions or ideas, this is a very open session today. I am going to be showcasing some of the things, some of the ideas I have for being creative here in the holiday season. So one of the things I'm going to do first is show something that's game related, but it isn't sculpting 100%. So it's best if I just show you versus tell you. So let me grab this screen and grab my first object. So most of you around the holidays get these tins, right? So they're made of aluminum or whatever, you know, they got these insides. And it's like, what do you do afterwards? And what I do is I turn them into objects of enjoyment, at least for me. And I'll give you guys an example. This was a tin, right? So I've spray painted it black. I've put felt inside. So if you put dice or whatever in there, they're not going to be rattling around making a ton of noise. So even in the lid, I have black felt. And then I have printed out using my 3D printer a little medallion that I glued to the top, and then I painted it. So this is just taking an everyday item and making it a cool gift. And so I gave these out last year, and again this year I made a bunch, and I hope everybody liked them. But you can put dice in them, you can put whatever you want in them, and it was a really fun upcycle project. I did also another tin you can look at using the gooey theme. I have this green one. And then I also found a product where you can print a sticker material, and then I cut out a circle, so I glued on the bottom. So it's an adventure dice tin upcycled by Harry, and with my logo on there. So I could put that on the bottom. And as before, it's got felt in the bottom that I cut out and glued down. The difference this time, so I didn't have to paint, honestly, there sometimes my time is limited. And so I printed out my medallions in a translucent green material on my printer. And so light travels through it, as you can see here, as the light from my desk light is shining through it, and it's got the logo on there. Well, the cool thing is these tins had tea in them, and they had this plastic clear plastic thing on top. And so this was great because I could glue it down and light shows through. So I made several of these and provided those as gifts. So as you can see, even with the lid on, there is some light that can bounce around, and it looks really, really fun and really cool. And if you don't have a 3D printer, again, you could get the sticker material, print out your stuff. If you have a Cricut kind of device, you could print and the vinyl and attach it to the sides. But you can make some fun stuff without a ton of investment. You can make a ton of stuff for your friends and family. And so the gamers at my table often get something handmade by me. Sometimes it's miniatures, but sometimes it's stuff like that. And then the fanciest one I did was, again, it was a dice tin. And the bottom is I made cork material, so it sits fine on the table and it doesn't scratch. And then I have fabric and felt on the inside. And then again, I printed an even larger medallion and I painted it. And this one I like so much I kept it. I didn't give it away. So that one's mine. And you can see it actually has dice in it. So lots of great stuff you can do for a creative gift here in the holidays that's game adjacent. I make them as dice tins. And so there's all kinds of other stuff you could potentially do if you were interested in crafting or creating or doing things like that for the holidays. The other thing that I like to do is do themed adventures. You know, there's a great adventure from Gooey Cube. Speaking of Gooey Cube, I have it here. Let me pull it out, hopefully without making a big mess, and hold it to the camera. This is the Strangely Gooey Holiday adventure for levels 3 to 5. And it's a ton of fun. You get tons of stuff. I've actually, you know, you get the character portraits, the maps, all that great stuff. And this is a side quest. It doesn't, you can play it in one evening, or you can create your own adventures if you want. And so let me see if I have some pictures to show you some of the tables I've played at that were holiday themed. So give me 1 second while I pull that up. Make sure I have the right one. How well you're going to be able to see it, but let's see. So I took the people out of the picture. They didn't give me permission to share a photo of them on a live Twitch show. So these are anonymized. But this was a role-playing game we played, and in a dream, there were these creatures we had to deal with, and he had the scenery he built specifically for there. And it was a really straightforward, as you can see, is a white piece of felt. Let me see if I can zoom in even more and have you still see. So there's a white piece of felt, and these were the foam balls you can get at the craft store. Cut them in half. There was some cotton that actually interacted with, and there was little crystals that he bought that were around, and those, some were traps and some were other things, and the trees were just candy canes. So he didn't have to spend a ton of money to make this really cute creative board. And the creatures we were dealing with were toys, you know, just things he had bought at the dollar store that were just the right size to put on the table. So some of them were gigantic in comparison to the rest of the models on the table, but it really created that fun atmosphere of a holiday game. And so, yeah, Geeky, I think you should play that Strangely Gooey Holiday. Is a lot of fun. I actually haven't run it for my group, so another year's gonna go by before I run it. So we'll see how that goes. It just, the timing didn't work out. We did a Halloween game, and I have some pictures to show around that, some things that I've done. But I really love this. I think I actually have, nope, just that one. So I thought I had some more pictures of this table, but that's the only one. So let's see what else I've got. Oh yeah, here's another view. So I can zoom in a little closer. So you can see now the crystals and some of the little toy effects that were happening at the table. This was like just a little toy. I think it was a building that we interacted with as players. So full three-dimensional environment to play on, and it just got everybody in the spirit of the game. So I was actually a player in this game, so that was a ton of fun. Let's see. I think I have. I thought I had another picture of another table that we did that was holiday themed, but I don't. But I do have the holiday themed characters that we played here in October. Um, and it was I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago. We played a mystery solvers game, and everybody was a character. So I had the miniatures and artwork that I made based on a very famous set of characters. So I gave them different names. This was Vera. This was Darla. Um, I think this was Ned or something, and then Scooter and Tater was the name of the dog. So I created the character sheets so they were pre-gen, and then just everybody had a blast. It was a lot of fun, and what I'll probably do for next year is actually make it more Christmas themed, but with the same mystery solvers. And so instead of it being a Halloween adventure, make it a Christmas adventure. But I thought people would like to see it. And this is just an illustration of the characters, but I sculpted these models, and I believe I have pictures in my set to show you. But if not, you get the idea from this really fun illustration I did. Some other things to show that I do every year. I like to sculpt a holiday themed ornament that's also gaming like. So here's a picture of one I did several years ago. The Christmas elf. I think I called him. I don't even remember anymore. But I gave them all a name. And so this was Clarence, the Christmas elf, and he can sit on your table, as a desk ornament. Because I was actually giving this away to office workers, and so they could just put it on their desk. Later ones I had, they could sit, or I'd put a loop on their head so they could be hung from a tree. But this was a lot of fun, very, very popular that year. And I've still repeatedly printed this for people if they wanted. And then a couple of years ago, I made, and now a lot of people do gingerbread men and gingerbread warriors and stuff. But I created these unfortunate gingerbread men, and I gave them over 2 years because they were so popular. So there was 5 of them, and they would randomly get one of these. And I painted them like this, and most people thought they were food and would bite in and hurt their teeth. These, of course, are plastic. And so I had to put a warning label on all of them that I gave away. But these were a lot of fun, and they're all wounded and hurt. One's got let's see if I have another picture I can show that shows them all in a different angle. Yeah. So as you can see, one of them's got a candy cane peg leg. One of them looks like he's been shot or bitten or something. One lost his head. The other one's been melted. So I just had a lot of fun, and it was a very simple sculpting project. Super popular. Project. And like I said, I gave these as a gift over a couple of different years, and it's not food. They're Christmas ornaments that you can hang on a tree or hang on your door or something like that, depending on the holiday you celebrate. So a creative just concept. And a lot of times for holidays, you don't need a lot of technology. Like you could make those same gingerbread men using air dry clay and just paint them, and you'd have this very similar effect because you don't have to be good because they've taken damage, right? So they're not healthy gingerbread men that need to look perfect. In fact, the less perfect they look, probably the better it will be. I'm gonna take these headphones off. If somebody's having problems hearing me, please let me know. But headphones were bothering me. Anyway, let's take a look at the next project. Here's another view of Clarence, and then I sculpted another elf that would be, his female counterpart. So Tina, I think, is what I named her, and so there's a series of ornaments of Tina and Clarence. And again, very simple designs, but very popular. So if there's interest, I can go into ZBrush and show how to do some of these simple projects versus a miniature sculpture that I do for gaming. Um, this isn't holiday related per se, but I was talking about inspiration last week and getting references. So there's an illustrator that did a series of these heroic rooster characters, and I was so inspired that I made this miniature. And I can't sell it; it's his intellectual property because it looks exactly like his illustration. But he's super successful. I've given it as a gift to one or two people, but I just wanted to showcase that inspiration can lead to some really, really fun results. And I was inspired by the artist. I actually reached out and said thank you. He was too busy to respond, so I didn't get permission to sell it. So I'm very careful about intellectual property. Um, I probably have the rights to sell this, but I didn't want to deal with it. I don't want a cease and desist letter. I just use it as a gift for close friends that really liked this particular model. Let's see. Uh, Here's one that I did. I think it was last year. Um, and the idea, I think, might have even been a year before. So the whole concept of a mimic that's a gift. And as soon as I made these and showed it on the internet, I started seeing other versions. It was one of those zeitgeist things. And then when I went to conventions, several vendors were selling ornaments that were like this. They were mimics. Now I gave mine eyes because I thought it looked cool. Most a mimic, as most of you know that love D&D, they don't have eyes. But I think they turned out really, really good. And so I gave these as gifts, and they're available as STLs. Well, I don't know if these are available or the cookies are available. I put a few models online, but nobody's purchased them. So I didn't put additional effort into making these available. If it's not a popular seller, there wasn't a lot of reason for me to do that. But I still give them as gifts. I don't have a picture of the picture on Facebook about this particular event is this year's miniature. It's a female elf with garland all wrapped around her, and she turned out really good. But I don't know that I have that handy. The other cool thing about being able to use software like ZBrush is I can turn it into an illustration and use the illustration. So this was the year before last is when I sculpted them. This past year, I made this illustration and they became a Christmas card that I used when I sent out to my friends and gaming, colleagues and everything. And so this was my Christmas card. I've also done, I'll have to look and see if I have the picture. I've done like a Santa looking dude with these very wicked canes, and he's ready for battle. And I did a Christmas card based on that too. So I can do these illustrations, and it's additional effort, but I can take my base model and then do it. So pretty cool. Hey, Paul, nice to see you. Welcome to the stream. I'm just showcasing some of the things you can do around the holidays. I was talking about themed adventures. And now I'm showing some of the ornaments that I've done for Christmas. I'm going to be about to show some miniatures. So yeah, Prusa XL, it's a very nice printer. So if you're using an FDM printer, it's one of the best. I think that's the FDM version. I know they also sell resin printers. Let's see. Yeah, here's what I'm going to show you. I have the physical version. So when I was doing themed adventures, I get to make my own miniatures. Being able to sculpt in ZBrush gives me quite a bit of freedom when I want to make something cool. So I saw a commercial on television where the snow created these creatures, and the family ran into their fancy VW car and drove away to get away from it, and then they ran through the snow and destroyed them. But I go, that would be a cool creature in Dungeons and Dragons. So I made this snow demon, and I've used it a couple of different adventures where it's one of the creatures they dealt with. And then I had these snowmen that were animated, and I created a couple of these. And again, something like this, you wouldn't need 3D design software. You could actually get little twigs from your backyard and air dry clay, or even those styrofoam balls at the craft store. Make a snowman that the styrofoam ball would have the perfect texture for a snowman. Glue it together, stick in the sticks, put it on the table. Now you've got a demon to go against your players, right? So you don't have to print a model like this to get similar results, right? So when you're thinking about a themed adventure, it's already going to be relatively lighthearted. It's not part of the main campaign, and so you don't have to have, the War in Christmas Village stuff. I mean, you just don't have to have that. You can use other things for that. Shoot, I thought I had. I don't. I have the physical version, so I'll show you. So let me shift to my phone again. All right, so I have some miniatures. So um, here's the snow demon. Let's get it so it focuses. And do I have a? I do. And I have for scale. Here's a Santa character I made, and it's pretty darn big. So it was pretty frightening on the table, and his base is pretty big. So he printed out really well, painted up really well, had a lot of fun. Like I said, I've used him 2 or 3 times. Then there's this guy, and he was actually the big bad guy in that adventure. He was an imposter Santa, and so I don't know if you can see him very well. And he was a lot of fun because I didn't have to stress too much because he has a very simple costume, just for the holidays. And then the snowmen, snow monster, snow mob, whatever you want to call it. There we go. That's a pretty nice angle. He turned out pretty good. And then one with a little different pose. And again, you can accomplish this with just putting the twigs in different angles, and you'd have a really nice set of miniatures. Now, if you don't want to use the foam, you can use like Play-Doh even. It's going to make a really nice miniature so you can control the size. And then here's one where he's going to throw that snowball at you. So that's one set of themed minis that I used for one adventure. The other thing that you can do with a themed adventure is just stick to in here on the uh, northern hemisphere. It's winter during the holidays, and so you can make winter creatures and not even have it be a holiday adventure. So this um, a really creepy looking thing, a flying sturge kind of monster. It's actually pretty big. He just came out of the snow, and he was a corrupted creature that I used in adventure where they were hunting. They were trying to rescue a sleeping god, and I made that too. But so that just some ideas. It doesn't have to be holiday themed per se. It can be winter themed, and you can capture a lot of fun and still make it interesting. So here's the sleeping god. He's actually somewhat floating, and it's covered in snow and ice. Let's see if I can hold still and get it to focus. Yeah. So he's like an elf, but almost twice the size. And so he was one of the gods of the elves. He was a winter god, and I had a lot of fun with this guy, making a more of a interactive piece versus a miniature. And then the other thing, I got these STL files of scatter terrain, and it was snow based. And like, well, that's perfect. You can see the little swirls in the stone and stuff. And I have a bunch of them now. I printed out a bunch, and so here's just a couple of examples. And just putting something like this on the table or from a map can really get the team, get your players super interested in what's happening and get that immersion going on the tabletop. And then, like we've always said, photos from the internet or illustrations from the internet that you just show everybody can really, really make a difference as well. Do you guys have any questions? I'm going to look for one more image to show everybody. Nope. Well, shoot, I'll have to save it for next year. There's, well, I can look one more place. Don't give up so soon, Harry. I'll use this. So again, this is the Christmas card I made. This character is also a miniature. It's also an STL file. So one of the things I'm able to do with the software is create a render that's looks like an illustration and then put it in other software and do other things with it. So the advantage of having the software that I do is it's multi-purpose. I've done illustrations with Alphinius Goo as well. Some of you have seen because I have the sculpt that I did of Alphinius Goo. My holiday want list: world peace, feeding the hungry. Yeah, my needs are pretty simple. We have our home. We own a home. My cars are paid for. My we're all generally healthy. So, and I not to get too personal, but I just got a job, so I'm no longer on the unemployment list, and so I have everything I want, Kiki. But thank you for asking. Is there anything you want? I was going to see if I had a picture of Alphinius as an illustration, but I think it's going to take me too long to find it. Maybe not. Where'd it go? I just saw it. I just lost it. Oh no! Harry, you suck. Oh well, I'll save that for another day since that not particularly. Yes, I understand, geeky. So yeah, I wish you the best. And again, family members I've had have dealt with similar problems. I have to check. My eyes are still fine. I have to check every year though because it runs in my family. All of those eye issues. So I wish you all the best. And the surgeries and from my perspective, for my family, they worked. So I hope they work for you as well. All right. Does anybody want me to go into ZBrush and show anything, or do we want to talk more about being creative during the holidays? So again, um, this is a gaming based miniature I've turned into an illustration that I sent as a Christmas card. I mean, there's just so many things you can do to stay in the holiday spirit and be creative around gamers. Upcycling works really, really well. The dice tins, were not very hard for me to make. You can make other things. I've seen people take get those simple wooden boxes from the craft store and then attach stuff to the top, and then you open it up, put your dice in it, and those make great gifts. um, make a goat in ZBrush. Well, let me show you something in ZBrush that makes my life easier. And again, there's other digital tools for modeling, like CAD type software for modeling. And then there's software that you can use for movie making and stuff. Blender is the one that comes to mind. And they have modeling tools inside them. And they're perfectly acceptable tools. I just find ZBrush is really good for how I think and how I work. And so one of the things you get with ZBrush, it's called the Z Zoo. And so as you can see, there's all these creatures. Now there's a gazelle and there's a goat. So let me open this up, right? And so it already looks very much like a goat. And the nice thing about this particular feature set is I can pose it. Oops, probably but I can pose it. Now, animals don't actually move like this. This is just for illustration purposes and training. Come on, there we go. Maybe make this further. So it's jumping, even though, like I said, they don't actually jump like this. They would feel very uncomfortable. Let's move his head. Then I can turn off. And so all of those were done with what we call symmetry. It's one of the reasons I like these tools in the software is I can move the horns on and it'll move both sides in the exact way. So I can accomplish a lot of really fun things without worrying about modeling it on both sides of a character. And then you turn off symmetry near the end of your process so that you create more realistic. So, like I said, their legs would be a little bit different. And then if I turn off symmetry, then I can. I was going to try and turn his head, and I can't find the piece that turns his head. We'll do that. So it's not there. We go. Turn his head like that. So now I've got this goat that's jumping and moving. And then once I've got it posed with this particular software, then I can create what's called a skin. And let me see. No, that's not going to be what I want. There, that's better. Now I have this skin, and already I accidentally hit his back foot, so I'll leave it like that. And then once I accept that, I now have a different model. So I've got the, well, let me turn off the adaptive skin. So I've got this one that I was originally posing, and then I have another one that actually is the skin. So now that it's posed, I can use my other tools. So I can smooth it down, get rid of all of those things. Right? Maybe make the ears a little more realistic. And since I broke symmetry, I do have to work on two ears separately, but that's okay. We'll just do one ear, right? So now I have a more realistic ear. Let's smooth it a little bit. Let me change features so I can make that look a little smoother. Right? Oh, he needs some eyes, so let's add some eyes. And I'm not using a reference source right now. Otherwise, I'd put the eyes in the exact right space. So this would be a Christmas goat, so I don't have to worry too much about accuracy of anatomy. So we'll give him a note. And then I know what I'll do. I'll make him a scary one. He's not a nice goat, right? And so you can see really quickly, I start at that. Look how fast I can work, right? So really, really cool stuff. Oh, you want a chimera. So what I can do if I want something else in the zoo, let me save this as chimera because I need to go back to, come on, there we go, and see if I can find a lion. I don't see a lion. There's a llama. We'll make a really goofy chimera. And all I want in this case is the head, but I'll go ahead and make that adaptive skin. There we go. And then I want to open up my chimera. And then I go back to Mr. Llama. Let's see which one I've got. Wrong one. Here we go. Is that the skin? I think it is, but that's okay. So what we want is just head and neck. I think I'm going to get too much. That'll be okay. Okay, I have to do something else real quick. I won't explain. It'd be for another video where I'd actually explain all these steps, but we're just trying to make a llama or a very strange chimera. There we go. That's what I want. And this is something I think I've shown before that you can create multiple tools. If you used anything like Photoshop, you have different layers you can create, and so you could have different colors on different layers, different effects. Well, there's a similar concept in digital sculpting. In the case of ZBrush, it's called a subtool. So I can have multiple objects independent of each other. So, in this case, I have this weird Christmas chimera. Right. Let me go up to the other one. I need to, let's make them just a little bigger. All right, let's move his head a little bit. I need a different tool. And so I'm going to tilt his head a little bit so it's out of the way. Let's see if that worked. Yeah, that worked pretty good. And then we will move him a little bit. Let's get his neck to merge a little bit. We could make this a fancier model on another day. Now I need a third animal, so let me save it so I don't lose my work. And then I go back to the zoo, and I need to find another animal. Ooh, here's a good one, a beagle. Let's give him a skin. I'm not putting too much effort into posing him because we're just going to jump to the chimera and give him a new head. And we could look at maybe having the legs be different and everything, but right now I'm just having some fun. Let's see what we can do. So I'm doing different techniques, and there's just so many different ways you can accomplish these things in a cool project like this. It doesn't like that. There we go. Let's see if I can get this over to the other. There we go. Boy, he's huge. There are some negatives to a tool like ZBrush. One of them is it doesn't actually have true scale. So the models are made in relation to each other or to themselves versus a tool like Blender or Maya, where something an inch tall is an inch tall. And so when you're translating or when you're moving to print, there's some hoops you have to jump through to get it to work the way you want. I'm willing to do that because as an artist, I want all of this technical freedom, and then I just have to do the engineering bits at the end to make it a printable model. It's just something I'm willing to do. I'd prefer not to potentially, but sometimes life throws you lemons. Okay, so now we have this very strange chimera that has a beagle, goat, and llama head, and then you can just keep going from here. So I don't know what else to do with this guy. I can smooth this. Whoops. I need Too much smoothing. Getting rid of the detail. So yeah, so it doesn't look like you can see all of the jaggies or the. There we go. Well, yeah. Let me see. I don't know. That's the challenge with the Alphinius. I'll show you what I mean. So I don't sculpt in T pose or A pose so that you can pose the miniature later into different things. I sculpt um, for printing. And so a lot of the work I do is to get it in the right pose first and then sculpt pieces around it. But we can see what Alphinius looks like and see if that's possible. Do I have him? Yeah, I'll just show you. So he's in this pose. Well, I can get him on there, but I'd have to redo his cloak and things like that. But let me see if I can simplify that process a little bit. First, get rid of his cloak. Then let's see. Probably lose his hat too. And then what else? The staff. Is his head already done? I need to get his head. And let's see if it works. I mean, this is an older model, so a lot of the things I've learned in the last couple of years have made it more functional and easier to print and things like that. We're not printing this, so that's a good thing. But I'm going to move this along faster by just grabbing the entire model. So it has to do some calculating. So give it a second. What I'm doing is taking all of the different pieces, his head, the chain, his hands are separate pieces, his shoes are separate pieces, and merging it all into one. Let's see. Did it work? It kind of worked. Why didn't it work completely? That's pretty funny. So let's try again. Did you do that to me again? Okay, now it's all one piece. So all those different subtools are now one model. Now there's some problems with this model. It's already warned me about it, and I know what they are. Like the shoes are not really easily printed because of the way I made them. I'd have to redo them. But he's now one piece. And so now I can go back to our Chimera. There he is. And then I can add this one part Alphinius. He's a little big, so let's scale him down. We know that, let's see, let me put him in the center of the world. And we know that his legs need to open up a bit. So here's some of the cool things I can do, right? So I can, why isn't it working? You guys still there? I'll have to move one leg at a time. I seem to have lost video. Okay, if you guys are still good, then I'm still good. It could be just my computer has resource issues. So I'm going to do one leg at a time. I'm going to open up his legs a little bit. And then unmask the other. And this is another powerful. Now, most tools have this now, but they didn't always, where you can mask part of the model so it isn't affected by the things you're doing. And so you can do posing like this, which is a really fast way to pose. And so now if I go back and move him, he's almost ready to go on this thing. Let's do something interesting. Let's grab this, move his legs up a little bit, do this, move his, whoops, move his legs back a little bit. And now he is riding. Let me move him over, move him down. He's riding the Christmas Chimera. And his pose is almost good enough. This hand up in the air works. We could maybe put reins on him or something. And but yeah, this is pretty crazy. I know that Alphinius isn't on the stream right now, but he'll watch this video later. I'll have to maybe take some screenshots or something and send it to him and show what we did as part of Creative Goo. Anything else you guys can think of? I could put a hat on him, right? Render it and post it. Well, yeah, I can do a quick render. I can do that. Alpheus on the Christmas Chimera. There we go. A mimic balloon. Oh, interesting idea. Let's try that. Christmas, where are you? You guys are so creative. All right, so he's got this mimic. I'll tilt it a little bit so it kind of looks balloon-like. And then we need to have a strap, right? Some kind of ribbon to hold this thing. That should be good enough. There. What do you guys think? So, when you're you guys can see that I think like I'm going to be printing it. So yeah, a string wouldn't work. So you make something really thick that you could use. The other thing you could do, if you were planning to print this, is let's get back to what I was trying to do. Is print it like this, and then the modeler would use wire from his hand, and so it would look like string because wire can be in different gauges, and then you would just attach the wire, like you would drill and glue it into the mimic. Now he's going to be really heavy. The other thing I would probably do if it was going to be a display model or something is maybe hollow out the bottom so that it uses less material, so it would be easier to support with the wire. And those are things you learn as you're um, working in the material, right? So, but this from a, if you were going to make a Christmas card, this works really, really well. So I can quickly move to my renderer. Let me try this a different way. There, it's an illustration. Right? So, and then I could color it in something like Photoshop. In other tools, I could easily inflate that balloon like what I could do here in ZBrush. There are some things I could do. Let me make sure I'm on the right tool, and I need to change it. Well, 149 is not too bad. So I do have some inflate. Well, let me try just pure inflate and see what happens. A little too much. So that helps a little bit. And then I could maybe reduce my draw size and smooth it down. Yeah, you can see this model did not like it. I'm creating holes in the product, but we can certainly get some of what you're talking about just with some just quick and dirty smoothing and inflating. And I can close those holes up in a second. If I was going to do this for real, I would certainly spend a lot more time getting that, making it look more like potentially. Well, I'll show you what I'll do. Actually, there's another good idea now that I think about it. So let me fix that. There we go. Close the holes. So if you want to look at more like a mylar balloon, I can do something like that, right? So the mylar balloons are always, thinner. And then the other thing I could do potentially is, let me change it to turn that off. Yeah, there's always this weird edge. Oh, in fact, I have a tool that might work even better. So now we've got this mylar balloon. And like I said, I've done it super fast, but now it looks more like a balloon than it did before. And looks like he got it from the weigh and fair shop. So really cool stuff. Now I need to move the string a little bit. And for something we put together in 20 minutes, this is pretty good. And I mentioned this in another show that we can do this kind of stuff because I've already sculpted a gift mimic. I've already sculpted an Alphinius goo. Now his pose, you can tell if you have his model, very similar pose, but it doesn't hurt anything. And with more time and effort, I could really manipulate and move him around, even put on a different outfit. But this works really well. And I could adjust this gift chimera, this Christmas chimera, and make it look more realistic or more stylized, whatever we wanted to do. And I was able to do that because I get a zoo of just basic models that I can then on my own build uh, the detail around. Like if I wanted to do fur, if I go back to the creature's main body, I have the ability to do that with different tools. I'll do with one of my favorites. If I can, it'll load in a second. Where is the fur? I don't want ears. I want fur. Actually, that works right there. So I mean, I can add for. Let's give myself some more. pixels to work with. So you can see, I mean, I can make this a really furry beast, or I can, and do very carefully what I want. The other way I can do is just, you know, do fur, something like that, and, go slower. And so you have lots of options for the texturing. One of the things ZBrush has always been known for is making great textures. And so there's multiple ways to do that. And, I could, if I really wanted, we could make this a kind of a crazy creature. And so part of it scales. And so I could draw in scales. So there's lots of options. I'll pick an angle that shows some of this stuff off. Let me go fix those. That first strapping I don't like, so let me smooth it and do it again with more carefully drawn in fur for something super shaggy. I use this a lot and just carefully lay where the fur is. I think you get a much more realistic look. And the other advantage is when you're printing it, it's really fun to paint these textures, right? So here we go. And let me pick a different tool so I get rid of that. And there's the illustration of Alphinius Goo riding the Christmas Chimera with a mimic balloon. And yeah, Paul, I saw it. I haven't read the lore. I looked a little bit at the racial abilities that they get. It's a lot of detail, so I haven't really read through it too much. It's definitely in the style of Gooey Cubes, so a lot you can sink your teeth into, both from a crunch rule standpoint, as well as I think there's 3 pages of lore. So really, really neat. It just depends on if you like that extra crunch at the species level. But I love the background stuff a lot. I really do. Well, we are at time. I really appreciate Paul and Geeky, you sharing this time with me and making this really cool miniature. I don't know that it will ever see an STL, but it was fun to do. And I will post it on Facebook in the Gooey Den, and we will see how that goes. So you guys have a wonderful evening. Have a great holiday. I'll be on Twitch on Saturday morning for the holiday Goo Morning Zayate, and probably catch you guys there. And for everyone that is just watching this separately, have a great holiday here in 2023 or whenever you watch this stream. Take care. Have a wonderful day.